every single time I stop myself from allowing my desires to come true is because I'm always worried about what someone else is going to think, whether it's my partner, whether it's my community, my family, my kids.
Mhm.
And when we can start silencing those voices and actually just dipping into the things that we want, where we want to go, businesses we want to start, who we want to surround ourselves with, it's like you open up the next abundance portal.
In today's episode, you're going to hear from Renée Warren. And Renée and I have been friends for a while now. I've had Renée on the podcast previously, but this is actually a clip. So she came into one of my client calls, and I said, I want you to come in and I want you to talk openly about your journey building your brand out loud. And I like to be incredibly vulnerable. I love to tell people like what they can't see. We judge a book by its cover, and it's like, but you don't even understand the emotional journey somebody went through to get to that cover of that book, right? So Renée Warren is a mother. She used to own a PR agency. She used to do PR. Her kids, she opened her PR company. This was years ago, but when her kids were like super, super young. And Renée is married to Dan Martell. Not sure if you know who that is. And she talks openly about like being married to Dan, who is a entrepreneur, highly successful, millions of views online, personal brand, and finding herself in that and holding her own and giving herself permission to want what she wants and holding a boundary. We talk about that today, or she talks about that as well, is like using your voice to communicate your needs and your desires and like just owning what you've created in your life. But there's this weird thing women do with money. And it is that if they are not financially contributing to the home, they discount their value. Like they do not see their value and their worth of like absolute existence. And where I find the slippery slope with that is culturally, is as women, we secretly, I'm going to say it, oppress ourselves. And what I mean by this is we buy into those cultural narratives. So, example, you will see people online talk about the wage gap, like money, 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 money. Like our culture is so money hungry, okay? This wage gap and how women have less than men and all the things. Absolutely. Sure. Awesome. Got it. And we have a lot of privilege in our culture as women. We really do. Like, let's be honest. We really do. If you've ever traveled the world, gotten outside, your Western bubble, we are privileged as women in our modern culture in Western society. Sure, we may still be less than and considered, and we got to fight for it. And be mindful of how the victim energy, victim consciousness can still show up in your own life. Well, I'm just this. Well, I'm just that. What a privilege. What a privilege. What a privilege. And remember, this invisible load that you carry is not just you. You are not the only human that carries that load. Okay? Your partner carries an invisible load as well. And so I always want to get people thinking differently about managing their energy of what do I need to do? Where do I need to take ownership for my thoughts? Where do I need to take ownership of giving myself permission of wanting what I want? Where do I need to give myself permission to do the damn thing that my soul is craving to do? And Renée talks about this of building her brand. And I've been watching her. We were in Mexico together at the beginning of the year, and we were there last year as well, of like just seeing the challenge, the behind the scenes challenge of being seen, being visible. And as you grow, people don't like it. People don't like it. People that are in your inner circle do not like it. And they start distancing themselves from you, or they say things to you. And if you are somebody that really finds a lot of value and identity of belonging, that will trigger the crap out of you. So I have a different story internally. So mine, that doesn't trigger me, but other things trigger me as I grow, which is fascinating to me because some people will say things I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, that would not trigger me. But in the same scenario, I'm like, oh my gosh, this would, I'd feel this way. And they're like, I wouldn't feel that way. It's just the human brain and experience is so fascinating to me. So we're going to dive into Renée Warren. Go check her out. Go to the pinkskirtproject.com. So she talks about wearing a pink skirt to her event. So if you know me, you know that pink is not on brand for me. And I still love Renée. And this is the value of just loving people for who they are. So I will be at the Pink Skirts this year. It's in July. And I was there last year. And here's the value that I gain from going to events. Number one is I am friends with some of the people that will be on stage. It's just a good time to travel. But here's the thing. When you go to events, regardless of what the event is, you meet people. And sometimes it's not the value you gain from the speakers on the stage. It is the person that you met that sat next to you. It's the person you went to dinner with. It's the person that you were riding, like your Uber driver that you met. You just never know the possibility. Sometimes it's the journey of getting to the event, like giving yourself permission to want what you want, having a few nights to yourself, visiting a new city, bringing a friend and making that your girls' weekend. I don't freaking know. But anyways, the Pink Skirt Project, I'll be in attendance. My son actually lives in Kelowna, so it's a great opportunity for me to go visit my kid. Yeah, go to thepinkskirtproject.com. And if you use the code Heather10, I believe you get a discount of 10% off. And that is it. It's like July 9th and 10th, I believe. Go check it out. Also, go check out Renée Warren. Into the Wild is her podcast. And that's it. Let's dive in to today's episode. Just fucking give yourself permission to want what you want. It is 2026, ladies. We need to stop hanging on to beliefs and stories that our great grandmothers told themselves. Times have changed. So should we. Let's dive in. So Renée, I wanted to talk about, I've been talking a lot about resistance and becoming a buffalo. I know you and I have had many combos about this, but we haven't really chatted a lot one-on-one since you've been all in on building your brand and visibility.
Yeah.
I know we have the Pink Skirt, or you have the Pink Skirt Project coming up in July, which you'll talk about after. But I wanted you to just like pull back the curtains a little bit, because what I'm about to talk about with the ladies after is, yes, the ETM process, but we're headed into summer. And what I often see is the kids come home and then everyone just throws all of their like foundational habits out the window and be like, I'll start again in September. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about what you've observed within yourself, or what you've learned of like building that muscle of resistance, because it's not necessarily about doing the quote unquote content, I'm assuming. It's about who you needed to become along the way. So I'll just give you the microphone for a little bit. Let it be messy and vulnerable. And
Well, first of all, Heather, thank you for having me. Hi, ladies. A little bit about myself is I used to be in PR for 13 years and got burnt out by it and did not like doing it anymore. So I sold my agency and I walked away from it. And the funny thing is I spent 13 years helping other people build their brands, and I didn't do that for myself. And the moment I turned the spotlight on me, so many things changed. And this is like the part in this that is so hard is not what anybody expects. It's not the ideation for like, what do I say? Who do I say it to? What's the hook? What's the thing that's going to go viral? It's really the inner work that happens literally every day to get more comfortable to show up, to be authentic in the content that I'm sharing. And listen, I went through, well, I call it the shedding season because the people in my life that I thought were the supporters ended up being the people, some of them, and this is kind of the season that I'm just coming out of now, where now I feel like that I'm a threat to them. And so, like that comfort in growing your business or whatever it is you're doing in your life, you're taking that chance, you're getting on stages, you're getting on podcasts, or maybe that's not what you're in and you want to do something differently. And the thing when you do something differently, it's like you're removing yourself from being mediocre, you're going all in on your dreams, whatever that is for you. All of a sudden, the people that felt comfortable in your relatability move away. And I call them self select. They self select to remove themselves from your life. That was the hardest part. It wasn't sitting there recording, although there are days when that sucks too. And there are days when I've recorded content and I forgot to capture. But it is the becoming, it is building that muscle, it's the consistency. So when we talk about like coming home at the end of the school day, kids throw their bags down and go through the process, and then summer shows up and we come up with all these excuses as to why we should take a break or slow down. I think there's seasons for that. But when you're trying to grow a personal brand, when you're trying to do something differently, you can't.
Mhm.
There's no place where you can slow the momentum because you kind of have to start over again. And the biggest lesson is in building the muscle and being okay when things are ugly, when you don't like the way you look, when the lighting is terrible and I look exhausted. Or this morning when I had to leave earlier than normal. So, like, the schedule was a little out of sorts and I was almost late because my youngest wanted me to help him do his hair. The puffy emu hairs that all 12-year-old boys have. Yeah. I'm like a perfectionist at that. And, but it's like in those moments, gosh, I just actually finished recording an epic episode on my podcast with Samantha Skelly, and we talk about like breath work and just being in the moment. It's okay. It's okay to just be ugly and messy. And that is the part that was the hardest, but also the thing I appreciate the most
Mm.
in doing what I'm doing and doing it messy. So I see these people online. There's probably people we admire. They always seem polished and put together. And when we look to those people all the time, it really discourages us to actually go and do the thing. So, in the process of building my personal brand, we started a series called the Build Out Loud series. And it's whenever I get a hit of insight, I'll record content. I'm usually out walking my dog, and it's first thing in the morning in my pajamas, looking ugly. And I'm just talking through the process because we often don't share what the messy middle looks like. We get excited about the beginning, we celebrate the end, but the biggest chunk, which is the journey, which is the experience, is where all the memories are made and where all the growth happens. We don't talk about that. And
Mhm.
so why not? And that's what I'm doing. And it is exhausting, but it is so much fun.
What do you think people, so you talked about, which I find fascinating, that you're like the most uncomfortable for you was watching like the people kind of shift and evolve around you as you,
Yeah,
I'm going to say become, because it doesn't have to be a personal brand. It's like using your voice in your home, having
100%.
boundaries, hiring additional support because you don't want to do your laundry anymore, or just saying, I'm no longer like raising a standard in one area of your life. How do you think committing to this journey, building out loud, but also just being all in on something has benefited you, or are you noticing things in other areas of your life, whether it's your
Oh,
marriage or parenting or
100%.
friendships? What are you noticing?
So the noticing is like we all have our voice, right? We all have things that we want in our life, whether it is growing a business, asking for a raise in, or like establishing those boundaries at home too. What I've noticed that the more you do it, the easier the ask gets.
Mhm.
And oftentimes, like I still find that resistance too at home when I ask for certain boundaries. Like, for instance, my boys are almost 13 and 14 years old, and I get pure joy in making my kids breakfast every morning. I just love it because it's like the one meal I know I can control as they go into their day, and I make sure the macros are balanced and all this. And then finally one day I looked at the calendar. We have a family calendar, and I turned to my youngest, Noah, and I said, pick a day on that calendar when I'm no longer going to be making you breakfast anymore. And he turned to me, and like, here's like what happens as a mother is all of a sudden it's like I self-selected to remove from myself from an experience that I thought made me a good mother. And he goes, June 1st. And I go, perfect. So what do you need in your life, in your mornings, to be able to make your own breakfast starting June 1st? And it was quite simple. I will tell you, that was hard because that was my love language in making them breakfast. And now they're going to do it on their own. It's going to be messy. It's going to be tough for me seeing the mess around the house, but understanding it is the feeling of being okay and no longer doing the thing that my kids appreciated and no longer doing the thing I thought was expected of me to be a quote good mother. Now I have literally the whole morning. I could come here. I can go work out. I can go do whatever the hell I want because I don't have to make my kids that are 13 and 14 years old breakfast in the morning.
Mhm.
So the more that you start asking yourself or asking for the thing you want and setting those boundaries, the easier it gets. And at first it comes with resistance. Like you'll get the look, like the how dare you, or the, but that means that I have to do it now look. Same with delegating at work, same with delegating in your business. And then if you can just get past that and don't ever take it back, you never take it back, you get past that, then the next thing becomes easier. And realistically, in these moments, like I think of this example of no longer making my kids breakfast in the morning, is now I'm teaching them to no longer rely on me. They have to start fending for themselves. And it's a really good enough age for that.
Mm.
It's a good enough age for me to let go too.
You know what I heard you say?
Was that?
So it was a form of connection.
Mhm.
Like, yes, you may have had a story around it and it served you until it no longer served. And you knew that there was like, I'm going to call it scaling and growing, right? Like, you're like, okay, I gained some value from here, but there is a little friction. Like, I may have to let this go. And I want to teach my kids independence and responsibility. And then we have to shift our behavior as well and redirect how we want to feel in other ways with our kids.
Totally.
And whether it is growing and scaling a business, visibility, your message, the impact inside of you that's craving to come out, we're always evolving and growing. And I also heard you say that repetition creates momentum and ease and peace, and it's still uncomfortable, but you just got to do the damn thing over and over again.
Well, and here's the thing about like building my brand out loud. I talk about personal brand, and the event for that I'm hosting in Kelowna in July is all about being seen.
Mm.
And the whole idea is whether or not you're growing a personal brand, growing a business, you're a mother, you stay at home, it's all the same thing because the being seen is really about I have a voice, I have things I need and I desire, and I'm okay now asking for it. I'm okay now speaking my opinion and speaking my truth. And for me, in the practice of actually putting out 2 reels a day, every day, sometimes 3, is a practice of speaking my truth and my opinion. And so now where does that show up in my marriage? And let me tell you, when you're with somebody for so long and all of a sudden you start, I don't want to say standing up for yourself, but when you start actually speaking your desires, there's a lot of resistance. And I show in parenting as well with my kids. I'm like, I'm no longer doing that for you. Or no,
Mhm.
you don't talk to me like that. It's like it's the resistance shows up. And that is the test in those moments. That's the test for you. Do you have it in you to actually get past these moments of friction to create more of like ease and flow in your life? Or do you want to stay stuck in the position that you're in? And it's kind of like busting through the door, breaking through the glass. You finally just have to get to the other side. And then the more you face these moments of resistance, the easier it gets because you just know what to expect of yourself on the other side of it.
Mhm. I want to ask you a question about using your voice, communicating desire, and having that resistance come back. And I'm going to use marriage as an example. Children, I think we're like, okay, they're they can be manipulative. They're like, womp womp. Let's
Oh
see how I
yeah.
can get mom to do the thing.
They're so good. They're so manipulative.
So
It's a good thing they're
knowing,
cute.
yeah. So people probably don't know who you are married to. Some
Yep.
may, some may not. But just pulling back the curtains a little bit of like, I'm assuming you being encouraged to be Renee. Go do what you want to do, Renee. And then the second Renee's like, okay, I want to do this. And then it's being met with resistance. That resistance is not always a bad thing, right? Like people, we're human. But what I often see is women being like, I need to ask for permission instead of asking for support. And can you talk a little bit about that when you actually are supported, but you're kind of telling yourself that you're not being supported?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean by that?
Here's what comes to me. I'm actually writing this book called You Deserve It because there are moments in our life that we will, I mean, we do this every day, consciously or not,
Mm-hmm.
that we don't feel worthy of our desires. And so we put everyone else's needs before us, then we feel validated because, oh, they need us. So like the needing of us, like the making the breakfast is needing me. And now all of a sudden they don't need me. So when we think about like coming back to the desire thing is so interesting. Oftentimes when we don't feel like we deserve it, but we want it and we'll stake the claim like we want it.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just and we end up throwing grenades into the opportunity. Because
Yeah.
if we can self-destruct it, then we come back to exactly where we are. And what I mean by that is like, say you really wanted to go on a trip with your girlfriends to Tulum, Mexico, which we did. And
Mm-hmm.
like we start the process looking into it. It's fun. You can do it. You find dates that work. And all of a sudden, it's like, I don't know, maybe your partner's the breadwinner. Maybe your partner earns more money. And now you start like not feeling like you're worthy of it because you didn't contribute enough financially or you didn't contribute. And this is what we do. Is like
Mm-hmm.
we start walking backwards and being nitpicky over why we don't think we deserve it because we put so much value around maybe the financial contribution or how much we work at home and raising our kids. And I used to do this all the time with my husband. His schedule was like the priority. It's like he would put out his calendar for the year and he would plop in all of his trips. And then whatever was left over, I would take. Oh, weekends free, you can take the. And I said, this wasn't even that long ago. I go, that's bullshit. So I started putting the stuff that I wanted to do. And I said, listen, if it overlaps something that comes up in your schedule after the fact, then you have to deal with the children.
Mm-hmm.
And you get faced with resistance. But I'll tell you, the first time I did that, it wasn't even that long ago. Now he's like, you go, babe. Let me support you. So there's no questioning us going together on our mastermind to Tulum. There's no questioning me going to visit my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you have like a supportive partner in this, there's part of it that they're like, they already saw this version of you and they're proud. So when I wanted to do my event, and I said I want to host the biggest event I could possibly think of in Kelowna, BC, for ambitious women who just want to get to the next level in their life. And maybe they'll all wear pink skirts. I don't know. He's like, okay, what's the date? And he's super supportive, but also there was like the, can she do this? And I did. I proved it, validated it. And I will say this. We do this all like women mothers, we do this all the time to ourselves, especially if there's the partner is the breadwinner. We don't allow ourselves the luxury of the space of the things we want. Like even like if you've been eyeing like a bag and you're like, you can afford it, but you don't feel like you deserve it because maybe you're just a stay-at-home mom, right? Or maybe you just work part-time, or maybe you just make $50,000 a year. I think it's silly. It's the silliest thing to stop us from just considering that desire and actually going through with it. I used to have the biggest fear of being seen in a supercar. And let me tell you the story. My husband, when we bought our first supercar, which is an orange McLaren, it's a very loud, obnoxious car. It looks like a go-kart. He doesn't like when I say that, by the way. And I was so embarrassed to be seen in it because I tied people that had nice cars and nice things to being douchebags. I was like, oh, well, if you make that much money, then you must be taking advantage of people because that's how I was raised. Until I started to work through this block, because when we think that way, guess what we do to ourselves? We stop from receiving. We can't actually earn more money. We lack the abundance. Because if we generally think that people who make a lot of money must be douchebags, then we don't want to be douchebags. So we'll stop ourselves from making money. So I sat in that car once and I remember driving through Moncton, New Brunswick, where we used to live, and everyone was looking at us. And I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my gosh, they all think I'm a douchebag, or they all think I married him for his money, all this stuff. Until I drove it, until I sat in it and I realized, wait a second, this is flippin' cool. This is our car. I get to drive it. And so those people that are saying those things, I recognize myself in those words. They are not driving it. I get to drive it. And in that moment, I realized every single time I stop myself from allowing my desires to come true is because I'm always worried about what someone else is going to think, whether it's my partner, whether it's my community, my family, my kids.
Mhm.
And when we can start silencing those voices and actually just dipping into the things that we want, where we want to go, businesses we want to start, who we want to surround ourselves with, it's like you open up the next abundance portal. And I will tell you, the friends that I have now, looking at you, Heather, are some of the most exquisite human beings in the world because they will not let you play small. They will not. They won't poo poo you wanting to buy a supercar. They won't poo poo you wanting to get on bigger stages. And I think when we're in these seasons of massive transition in our lives, who we surround ourselves with and the words that those people say will be the things that blow air into our wings or not.
Yeah.
So if you're like stuck, like, well, Renee, I want all these things, but I really don't have that support at home or at work or wherever, find the women or the people in your life that believe in you. And it could just be one, it could be your neighbor. It could be somebody on this call. I'm sure that all you women are like that, blowing air into each other's wings. That is the thing that allows you to coast through those moments. When you like, and listen, any block in your life is never about somebody else. It's always about just thing, like right here.
Mhm.
And so those blocks about supercars, those blocks about not feeling like I deserve it, had nothing to do with anybody else. Sure, they could have physically gone and taken the car from me, but no one's going to do that. And so, as my friend Claire says, when you turn your edges inwards and you actually look at where you're stopping yourself, that's the hardest work you have to do because you have to face your own bullshit. And it's not nice and it does not smell good.
Smell good. It's stinky. It's poo-poo. It's stinky. Renee, can you tell, and this is such a good precursor for what we're going to do together on this call, but also what you're going to have at the Pink Skirt. Is it called the Pink Skirt Project or Pink Skirt Summit?
Yeah, so the brand is Pink Skirt Project, but it's Pink Skirt Summit. Yeah, so this year, 12 speakers, some of the most epic humans, a room of 450 women, but that's not to scare you. I will say the women in that room show up in their best energy, the most supportive energy. Most are wearing pink skirts. It's not required, but if you want to, you can wear a pink skirt. The whole idea is creating a safe space for people that want to get to the next level. They want to just grow in their business, in their personal life, whatever it is. The vision for this event is like Cirque du Soleil meets Tony Robbins. You go there for the experience. And last year we proved that we can do it. This is our second year doing this, July 9th and 10th in Kelowna, BC. And I mean, the speakers are the table stakes, let me tell you. But we have like Patrice Washington, Maria Went, Adley Kinsman, Lori Harder, Jen Gottlieb, Samantha Skelly, and Julia is going to be there, Julia Reed. And the whole idea is these women are going to talk about the topic about being seen, how they were able to grow their brands, their businesses, their relationships because they built the courage to finally have like people hear their voice.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's really important. I'll be there. And I think it's really, really important to put yourself in the energy of where you want to be and just getting outside your own environment. This whole conversation is about doing things differently if you want a different life. What I love, I was there last year, and what I love about just putting yourself in that environment is there's always like one golden nugget. And Renee, you can attest to this too. oftentimes you think, oh, I want to go see that speaker on stage, but it's the conversation that you have with the woman sitting next to you or the one that you met and you went out to dinner with or something like that. So it's the uncertainty of the unknown of where the magic happens. But I do want to be respectful of time. Renee, we're going to, we'll put the URL and I'll share more about the event itself. But if you have any last minute words of wisdom where people can find more about you and all the things, please let us know.
Yeah. So wisdom is you all deserve it. Every single one of you. Stop telling yourself you don't. If you don't believe it, go look in the mirror and look at that version of you, maybe the 18-year-old version of you, and tell her that she deserves it because you do. So, whatever that is in your life, as a mother, as a partner in business, you deserve it. And if you want to come to the event, it's July 9th and 10th in Kelowna, BC. You can follow me on Instagram, Renee_Warren. I'm always updating stuff. And you can come and judge my content game if you want to. It is very vulnerable. And if you need anything in your life about confidence, about feeling like you don't deserve it and you want to just speak about anything with regards to getting to that next level, then just direct message me. I answer every single message on Instagram. I'm going to go to thepinkskirtproject.com to find out details about the event. Well, thanks for having me. Have an amazing week, ladies.
All right. Bye, Renee.
Okay, bye.